All right, good evening, everyone. We're going to let some folks get in and then we'll get started. All right. We're going to go ahead and get started. People will trickle in here and there, but good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our Family Support Series, and welcome to all the new family members here at Mason. We're so excited to have you, and you'll be seeing our faces a lot. So we're super excited to see you and meet you and have you here tonight. My name is Kayla Tingley. My pronouns are she, her, and this summer I'm the family intern for New Student and Family Programs. I also serve as the graduate assistant for family programs during the school year, and I will be moderating tonight's event. So to start off, I want to introduce you all to our family team. They're the ones who are in Mason Family Connection and just kind of going to be running family orientation sessions for you all. So I'll pass it off to you guys.
Good evening, families. My name is Camille Clark. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I am the Associate Director of Family Programs.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mackenzie Nelson. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Assistant Director of Family Programs in the New Student Family Programs Office.
And our family student coordinator, Quan, will be joining us in a little bit, so you'll see him as well. All right. So I'm going to hand it off to the orientation team to introduce yourselves. And they're going to be presenting to you all tonight.
All right. Hi, everybody. It's so good to have you here on this evening, and thank you so much for joining us to hear a little bit more about orientation this summer. My name is Jessie. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Associate Director of Orientation here at George Mason in New Student and Family Programs. I'm excited to be presenting this information to you all tonight. I'm going to pass it over to my team to introduce themselves, and then I'll get into the meat of what we are gathered here tonight for. So I'll pass it off to Casey first.
Hi, everybody. My name's Casey Veit. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm one of our assistant directors for orientation.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Marshall Edney, and I'm the other assistant director of orientation. Excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So we have two very special guests. We have two members of our Parent and Family Council tonight with us to answer any of your all's questions about their orientation experience. So I will hand it off to you two. Ms. Karen, if you want to go first.
Sure. Good evening. I'm Kira DiMaggio. I am a proud parent of a now junior for George Mason. I have been part of the Parent Family Council. I'm going on my second year, and I'm happy to be here. And do you want me to go ahead and just do introductions, then lead into kind of a little bit of an anecdote?
Just introduction.
Okay. And that's who I am. And I'm just happy to be here and happy to see you all.
Hey, I'm Kathleen Barnes. I'm the parent of a now sophomore. So I've just started on the council and I'm happy to be here and answer any questions. I do have a unique perspective because my daughter came from out of state. So we were in Louisiana when she came here, but now I am in Virginia with her. So I kind of have a little bit of perspective on both sides.
And I probably should have mentioned that my now junior in George Mason, we are from Virginia Beach, so we are in state. So we can kind of answer those questions as well, but just welcome you.
Awesome. Thank you both. So all of the folks you see here on the screen tonight will answer any and all questions you may have. They'll answer some pre-written questions as well. So tonight, while our panelists are speaking, please feel free to use the Q&A button, not the chat button, at the bottom of your screen to ask a question. The chat button will be used to show you all what questions we may ask the panelists. We also have live transcripts and closed captioning for those who may need it, and this session will be recorded and posted to our website and YouTube channel. All right, I'm going to hand it off to Jessie.
All right, so let's get into it, everybody. Today's presentation is about preparing for orientation and giving you a little bit of information about what orientation is, as well as some tips for success on ways to prepare for orientation before you come on campus. So let me go ahead and get these going. You already saw all of our wonderful faces here. This is the new Student and Family Programs team. You will see all of us in some form or another as we go through on-campus orientation. You might see some of us speaking. You might see some of us running around making sure that the sessions are going well. So feel free to say hello to us. Let us know that you watch this webinar as you come to our on-campus orientation session. So we wanted to start off talking about orientation by talking you all through the journey that our students are led through when they go through orientation. So the first thing that our students do and are asked to do is to register for orientation. So by registering for orientation, all of our students are receiving information on completing our pre-orientation checklist, as well as Patriot Preview modules, which are online virtual modules for them to get some more information about all of the different resources that are on campus, including campus resources, including things like submitting required materials, as well as information that they need to know to prepare for orientation themselves. I'll get into this in a little bit, but this is where our families and supporters will also be invited to register for orientation. So this happens after a student has submitted their deposit and intends to enroll at George Mason University. So once you make the awesome decision to come to George Mason, your student will receive an invitation to register for orientation to their personal as well as their George Mason emails. We do recommend that all of you help your students to register for orientation through their George Mason emails. You will need to have that set up in order to register for orientation. And that is where most of our communication will be coming from following orientation, including the confirmation, the reminder emails, and everything else that your student may see. And so it's really important that your students get a chance to practice utilizing that email early on. So after they register for orientation and decide what date they want to attend, they will attend. So there are two aspects to orientation. The first being on-campus orientation, and the second being virtual advising and registration. On-campus orientation is where your students will actually get to come to campus, meet with fellow students, meet with our campus partners, meet with their academic colleges, and get to know a little bit more about what it's like to be a student here at Mason. Their virtual advising and registration date, which is a separate date from the on-campus orientation date, will be their time to actually meet with their academic colleges, academic advisors, and register and be advised for their classes. So students won't be necessarily receiving advising and registration on the date of their on-campus orientation, but they'll be receiving a lot of information about what it's like to be a student. And then we will focus on that time of virtual advising and registration to actually select their classes and get to know more about what their academic life is going to be like. There's a little star next to the on-campus orientation because this is where you all are invited and you all are. Families and guests will be invited to attend on-campus orientation. I'll tell you all a little bit more about how to actually register for that and what that day will look like for you in just a moment. But our families are not necessarily participating in the virtual advising and registration portion. This is due to different FERPA rules that we have here at George Mason University, as well as in most higher education settings. This is a chance for your students to be able to meet with their advisors, practice a little bit of autonomy themselves, and get to know a little bit more about what their academic classes and structure will be like. And so we do ask that you make sure that your students are prepared for that session, but also allow them to go through that process on their own. And then after you complete both aspects of orientation, your students will be asked to complete a post-orientation checklist. A lot of this is just to help students get ready for the start of the semester. And then when the semester starts, there will be a set of different activities to get them acclimated to the start of being here at George Mason. This includes things like convocation, events like preamble. All of these things are big, large-scale events for students to get excited about starting here at Mason, as well as a number of different events that start in the the fall semester, called Welcome to Mason. It's a number of different activities that will take place all throughout the fall semester to allow your students to find community and connect with their resources around them. So this is kind of the large scale overall journey that your students will be attending and going through when they go through orientation with our office. So what does this look like for you? Where do you all fit in as families and supporters? So this is kind of your place in the journey of your students' orientation journey. First, you will register on your student's registration form. Oh, apologies for the typo there. I'm going to go over here to the right. Your student can register up to 2 adult and 2 child guests when it comes to orientation. But we also have walk-in registrations available. So if you're not quite sure if you want to attend orientation yet, maybe this webinar will help you make your decision, or maybe it'll get to the day of and you'll realize, maybe this is something I want to do with my student, or your schedule will open up, or whatever that might be. If that is the case, you can walk in on the day of. Mackenzie, Camille, and Kayla will be there to greet you on the days of orientation to help you pay your fee to attend and get you settled to attend our family orientation program. I'm going to skip back over here to the left. As I mentioned, there is a fee for attending orientation as a guest. So for each guest, it is $60 per each adult and $25 per child. This helps us to cover our meals that you get fed during orientation, as well as all of the different components of orientation that our families and supporters get to participate in. I'm going to add a little note here. Students are required to pay a new student fee when starting here at George Mason University. More information about that can be found on our website. Their orientation fee is covered up within that new student fee. That new student fee won't be charged to your student's bill until they start classes, until the start of the semester. And so there's no separate fee that your students are paying to attend orientation. Again, for each guest, however, there is a fee associated with each adult and each child. And on the registration form, that limit is 2. If you're at a place where you may need to bring another adult or another child guest, please feel free to walk in for our session and we'll be able to make sure that you are taken care of. So our Family and Supporter program does run concurrently with our student program. Our student program is a one-day event, and I'll go through the schedule in just a moment. But our Families and Supporters coming to orientation will begin the day with your student and end the day with the student. But in the middle of the day, there will be separate family-specific sessions that you all are going to be separate from your students in order to attend. This is to make sure that you all are getting a chance to get to meet each other, getting a chance to talk to the family team about what it's like to be a family member or a supporter of a student here at George Mason, and then to allow our students to also continue to get some information, connect with their with their fellow students, with their current students, their Patriot leaders, who I'll talk about in a moment as well. And so there's a concurrent program. You all will be able to arrive and end at the same time. And there will be a little bit of specificity as you go throughout the schedule throughout the day. All right, so why should you attend? You might be thinking to yourself, I'm not sure if this is the right time for me to be there. I'm not sure what I'm going to get out of this experience. So I want to tell you a little bit about what you might receive by attending orientation. The first being campus. You get to see our beautiful campus and our buildings. The summer is such a wonderful time to be on campus at George Mason. A lot of students are, it's not, quite the hustle and bustle of what students are going to be like in the fall semester when everybody is here, but that allows you a really unique opportunity to get to see campus for its beautiful summer vibes. It may be a little bit hot, but you get kind of the campus to ourselves when it comes to orientation. So you get to walk around, really get to see the buildings and not have to worry too much about the crowds. Resources, you learn about campus resources. There are so many different resources here at George Mason that you all will have access to and you will want to know about so that you can help support your students throughout their college journey. And so you'll get a great opportunity to get to meet with a lot of different campus resources, get to talk to people directly one-on-one and see where it is that you all can help support your students. You can also see a little bit about what are the opportunities that our students are maybe being offered so that you can continue to help your students, encourage them to take advantage of some of those opportunities. And and be able to just really get a full understanding of what your support system looks like for your student here at Mason. Community, you'll get to meet each other. There are 271 of you right now on this webinar, and there will be probably that, and if not more, family members per each session when it comes to our orientation. You'll get to meet them. You'll get to see those who share a community with you. Maybe they're in-state parents or family members, just like Karen said, or maybe they're out of state, or maybe you have, you're sending your first child to college or your first family member to college, or maybe this is your 5th or 6th, right? You'll get to be able to see others who have shared kind of that experience along with you and be able to talk to them and make connections and really find a sense of community within each other. And I think it's a really great opportunity to continue to do that at orientation. Student support, I think what's really great about our program, as we said, it runs concurrently with our students program. So you get to kind of see how your students are interacting with other students. You get to see how they're interacting with the support systems that they'll get when they come to campus. And so it's a really great way for you to kind of experience what it's like to be a student at Mason as well. This will be really great and come in handy, you know, as you're encouraging your students to think about opportunities for them as you go throughout their 4 years here, maybe something that they'll forget, right? There's so much information that they have and that they're receiving as well. Of course, questions. I see that there's lots of questions already coming into the Q&A chat. You'll be able to get your questions answered by faculty, by staff, by current students. Anybody who may be able to provide you a unique perspective about your experience as a family member or your student's experience as a student, they'll be there at orientation to be able to help guide you. And so it's a really great opportunity for you to ask those specific questions that you may have and to be able to get some information about a specific situation that you're still wanting to get a little bit of extra kind of additional support in. And then last but not least, you'll get swag. You'll get so many things that have the beautiful new George Mason brand and logo on them. All guests will receive a Mason tote bag, a lanyard, a family calendar, and many, many more swag items. So all of our campus resources come with all kinds of great things. There will be opportunities for you all to enter drawings, lotteries, little raffles and giveaways. And so it'll be a really great opportunity if you haven't quite maybe stocked up your Patriot Pride, what is the word I'm looking for? Stash. You'll be able to do that while coming to orientation. All right, so as I mentioned, I'm going to go over the schedule a little bit and tell you all a little bit about what to expect when you arrive to on-campus orientation. So our program, as I mentioned, is a one-day program. It is kind of a long day. We have a lot of information to cover in one sitting. And so we want to make sure that we get everything for you all. And so the day will start off nice and early at 8:30 a.m., where check-in will open at Buchanan Hall. Around this time, you'll also be able to attend a green and gold showcase, which means that about 42 different campus resource offices will be on campus and will be tabling and be able to tell you a little bit more about their specific resource, about their specific office, get you some of that swag that you were looking for. And we'll also have breakfast during this time. So from 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. will kind of be a check-in and mingling time for you all to get to know a little bit more about what you have coming ahead of you and what campus resources there are for you to get to know more about throughout the day. Then we get to about 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. We'll start with some opening presentations. You and your students will be able to attend the same set of presentations in the morning that cover academics. So it'll cover kind of our Mason core and our curriculum and kind of what it's like to participate in undergraduate academics here at George Mason. Everybody will hear from financial aid and student accounts. So always the big question of wanting to talk to financial aid, wanting to talk to student accounts. They will have a dedicated time to present to everybody in the morning to get your morning started. And then you'll also be able to hear from our lovely Patriot leaders, who I'll talk about in a moment as well. And they'll be able to kind of get our spirit up and ready to have a great rest of the day. So that'll be the morning presentations. Then at 11:30, this is where our families and our students will split. And so we've noted here that throughout this time, our families will split from our students to attend a family lunch. Our students will split from the families to attend a student lunch with their small groups. And then during this time, you all will be able to hear from an academic experience panel, hear from other campus presentations, for example, from our student rights and safety offices so that they'll be able to tell you a little bit more about what your students' rights are, as well as safety on campus. You'll have an opportunity to see a little bit of on-campus housing through a set of housing tours, or take that time to kind of take a break or take care of business, right? If there's anything that you wanted to do, maybe stop by the bookstore and see some of our wonderful merch. There will be a little bit of unstructured time for you all to be able to do that while our students are continuing to connect with their academic colleges as well as other campus partners. At about 3:40 p.m., you will be able to reconvene with students. We have a really great time during this afternoon where you are able to kind of choose your own adventure. So there will be a number of different presentations that will be happening at the same time. And if there's something that you learned about earlier that day that you wanted to hear a little bit more about specifically, you'll have the opportunity to choose what presentation you attend. You and your students during this time could, spread out and tag team some of these presentations and this information, or you can attend them together and make sure that you all get a chance to answer some of those questions. So this will be a little bit of time to do that. We'll have some more presentations in the evening, hearing from housing, from our campus essentials like parking and transportation, dining, our Mason card office, and round out the day by hearing from me again to close out the information that you all have received at orientation. We do provide dinner at the end of the day. So after you end the day, you get to kind of relax with a little bit of dinner. It's really great. All of food is amazing. We have really great desserts. I know that a lot of people really love. And then this year, something new that we're doing, we are going to be doing optional themed campus tours after dinner. So you and your students can attend a campus tour together. Again, you all can divide and conquer and attend different types of themed tours to be able to get a little bit more information around what spots are important on campus depending on your interests. So maybe that's in academics, maybe that's in housing, maybe that's in student involvement, whatever that may be. You can attend those optional campus tours. All right, so I know that was a lot of information that I shared with you all. You can find this information on our website. So I'm just going to do a quick walkthrough of our website real quick, just so you all know where to find this. I'm sure that a lot of links can be found on the Mason Family Connections portal and the Orientation Hub as well. But I do want to just quickly show you all how to get there from our main website. So when you go to orientation.gmu.edu, that's going to take you to the main orientation website. If you come across here to the top under student orientation, you're going to be able to find some of this information for your students. So if you click on new student orientation, you can see kind of the information that I've recapped here already on what our structure looks like for our one-day on-campus session and our virtual advising session. There's a schedule at a glance here that you can click on and view, and then a lot of this information that I've already shared here as well. For you all as family members, you can hover over here to the family members portion and click on family orientation, and it'll give you a lot of the same information as well. And then here is where you can view the schedule at a glance. And by doing that, you'll be able to see, again, a lot of this information that I just shared of where you'll have combined sessions as well as separated sessions from you and your student, and then ending the day on combined sessions as well. Here, if you continue to scroll down, you can also see some virtual family orientation resources. You'll see some welcomes from some of our university leadership. And by clicking on this, you can also see a number of different videos that all of our different offices have made to tell you a little bit more about what their offices are and how they can support your student. I'll touch more on this in just a moment, so we'll come right back to that. All righty, if I can get to the next slide. Oops. Yes. All right. So Patriot Leaders, who are our Patriot Leaders? I've mentioned them already a couple times. So a really important and amazing part of our on-campus orientation program is that we have this wonderful team of Patriot Leaders who are current students here at Mason who help your student as well as you throughout your orientation journey. This is our picture from last year's team, but there are a couple faces in here that you might see again this summer. We have 42 wonderful PLs, or Patriot Leaders, or PLs as we like to call them, who will be getting students hype, getting them excited for the orientation day, as well as getting you all some information and some much needed, I think, student perspective on what it's like to be a student at Mason. And so All of our students work really, really hard to put on and support our orientation program for you all and for your students. And so hopefully you all can find them as a wonderful resource as well as you go throughout your on-campus orientation experience. That being said, I do want to do a quick little plug here for if your student is really excited about Patriot Leaders when they come to orientation, if they're having a really great time at orientation and maybe want to do this in the future. Our Patriot Leaders are paid positions that really give them some wonderful leadership opportunities and leadership skills, public speaking skills, as well as a lot of really great networking opportunities with our different campus partners. This is a summer job that's available for all of our students after they complete their first semester at orientation. And so more information about that will be shared in future dates, but we did want to plug that in case you want to see what our students are doing and if this is an opportunity for your student in the future to earn a little extra money and get a really great experience. All right, so I wanted to go into a couple of tips for success at orientation. The first being the pre-orientation checklist. This is the pre-orientation checklist for our students, but I wanted to bring this up to everyone attending the webinar because I think this is really important information that you may need to collaborate with your student on to be able to make sure that they are prepared to attend orientation. The first being to set up your systems. I mentioned this earlier when we talking about registering for orientation. All of our communication, not just from us as new student and family programs, but also from the university, will start going to your students' George Mason email. It's really important that your students get used to checking that George Mason email. A lot of people and a lot of new students coming in, especially those who are transfer students, may already have a habit of checking a different email for information and communication from their universities. But as we get into George Mason, all of our emails and communication will continue to be sent through George Mason. And so we do ask that you help your students to set up their George Mason and check it regularly to be able to stay up to date on changes, on updates, and on important information to prepare for their start of the semester. So that's what Patriot Pass is. That will help you set up your George Mason email. I've talked about a lot of these pieces already, but preparing for orientation by registering for their date, completing Patriot Preview modules. Again, that information will be sent in the confirmation emails for all of our students. These are just online modules that are self-paced that students can review and see if there's more information and more resources that they would like to learn about. And then we also have a Mason 360 app, which is an app that shows all of the different events and organizations here at Mason, so students can start kind of previewing some information there. Submitting required materials. So there are 4 pieces that I really want to highlight. The first being Mason ID photos. Our Mason ID office has now transitioned to being a fully mobile office. And so most of our students will not have physical Mason ID cards anymore. They will be all on their mobile devices. It's a really easy tap to access for most spaces here on campus. It's really helpful because most students are with their phones all the time, maybe not always with their physical Mason cards. And so instructions for how to set up their Mason ID photos will be sent via email as well. I do really recommend talking with your students about submitting these photos ahead of time. They can start doing it now. So that our office is able to approve those photos and get their Mason ID set up. There will be an opportunity for them to take these Mason ID photos on the day of during check-in, but that line can get sometimes get very long and won't necessarily allow you to have enough time for breakfast or maybe to connect with other campus resources during that time. And so we really do encourage students to submit their photos well ahead of time before coming to orientation so that they can just get that set up and not have to worry about it on the day of. Immunization records. So immunization records are required by the start of the semester. I'm sorry, by August 1st, I believe, which is before the start of the semester. Sometimes it takes a little while. I do want to just bring that up. There is a form for you all to fill out and for students to be able to connect with their primary care provider and be providing some records on immunization. And so we really do encourage students to submit this as soon as possible so that they can get that knocked out. There are holds for not submitting immunization records on time. That could mean that your students maybe aren't able to register on time. And so we do really want to make sure that immunization records are being submitted well in advance as well. Your students can access your financial aid through their financial aid portal, so you can find more information about that if your student is receiving any financial aid. And then, of course, submitting final transcripts and scores from either their previous institution or from their high school. That's really important to make sure that they are all set and know what classes they can register for and what scores are being accepted. Kind of in that vein, there's also the math and foreign language placement tests for all of our students if they are interested in taking any foreign language classes or placing into a specific math class. All of that should be done prior to their virtual advising and registration date. And then for specific transfer students, there are opportunities within each college for some pre-orientation advising. So if they want to receive any advising prior to coming to orientation, for some transfer populations, this is possible. All of that information will be outlined in the confirmation email for your students, though, and they'll be able to connect with their college directly to receive information about pre-orientation advising. All right, some other information about attending orientation. So our hotel partnerships, because this is a one-day program, there is no overnight housing prepared or overnight housing provided by the university. However, there are a number of different hotels in the area that we have partnered with to be able to give you all a little bit of a discount. And so that is information that is listed in the website. If you type in where to stay GMU into Google, it should be the first link that pops up. Here you can also see kind of what their address is, if they have a complimentary breakfast, if they have an indoor pool, maybe after a long day of orientation, you can take a nice little relaxation dip in the indoor pool there. And then we have some information in here about transportation that's provided to and from the hotels, which I will get to in just a moment. All right, so transportation. This is the moment. All of our orientation participants will park on campus in Lot K. So Lot K is the closest lot to our check-in location on campus. It might not be the most central lot that you always will use, but it is the most central to our check-in location. There will be a process for registering your car for free parking, and so that will be sent in reminder and other preparation emails. It is possible for you all to register your car on site, and so if you're not sure which car you'll be bringing, or maybe you're renting a car for the day, you can complete that registration on site, but we do ask that if you do know what car you're bringing and how many vehicles you're bringing, there's no cap to how many vehicles you can bring, and so we do ask that you just go ahead and register your vehicle for your selected orientation date. Buses and shuttles. Campus is accessible via the Metro bus and the Q bus, which is our Fairfax City bus. And so you can utilize any of our public transportation in the area to arrive to campus. Mason is also located near the Vienna Fairfax GMU Metro stop, and Mason does provide regular shuttles from the Metro stop to campus, and that will be running on our orientation days as well. Here is a little bit more information about the transportation to and from the hotels. There will be Lyft options. And so something we will be doing this year will be providing you all a discount code to be supplied to cover the transportation to and from 2 of our partnered hotels. So that will be the Courtyard Fairfax and the Residence Inn in Fairfax City. When you check into those hotels, they will give you a Lyft code. And so you can use that to receive a discounted private ride to and from the hotel. This way you don't have to wait for a specific shuttle or match your timing to a specific time way early on. You can just take the Lyft directly from your hotel to campus, and they'll be able to take you to where you need to be. And then at the end of the day, there will also be shuttles within campus to Lot K to be able to transport you from our final location of the Johnson Center to your parking location at Lot K. And so that will run from about 4:30 to 8 p.m. at the end of the day. A little bit about accessibility. So when registering for orientation, you or your student may list any accommodations that you may need during your on-campus experience. So you can indicate any mobility needs, any dietary accommodations that you or your student may have, any academic accommodations that you or your student may have, and then any need for any American Sign Language interpreters. But please note when doing so on your registration form, this will be accommodations that are applied for orientation only. So only for our orientation on campus sessions. Our students will be advised to register with Disability Services using the link in the email to receive accommodations for the academic year. And so we really, really wanted to stress this because while we want to make sure that you and your student are accommodated throughout orientation, we also want to make sure that your student gets connected to accommodations throughout the academic year. And there will be an additional process to make sure that that happens prior to the start of the semester. And if you require any accessible parking, you will need to bring your personal hang tag. That's not something that necessarily we are able to provide, but you can park in any of the designated accessible parking spots on campus. There is one directly in front of our check-in location, but they are limited. And so there will be accessible parking spots in all of our parking lots that you are able to access. And as long as you have a personal hang tag for your vehicle, you should be able to park in any of those spots on orientation days. On this slide, you can also see some information on how to connect with disability services, as well as our parking and transportation services offices, if you have any questions as you go throughout preparing to attend orientation. All right, and lastly, thinking a little bit more about those resources, as I mentioned, our students have their virtual Patriot Preview modules. You all have your virtual family orientation resources. So I already showed you all how to get here, but we really do recommend that you all take some time to view anything that sticks out to you, anything that you want to know more about. This really will help you get some information around what questions you might want to ask at orientation and what you might want to learn more about. And so there's different sections in here for finances, for academic life, policies, on and off campus housing, campus services, health and wellness, student life, and just supporting your student in overall. And so we really do hope that you check those out before you come to orientation, but they will always be there for you as well if you want to view them later on and maybe get a refresher on some of the things that you learned at orientation. All right, phew, that was a lot of information that I just provided to you all. But that kind of takes me to the end of the information that I have for you. We're more than happy to answer questions, but a lot of what I presented is also still available on our orientation FAQs page, as well as through email, a live chat on our NSFP website, as well as sometimes provided in some of our Instagram pages, or our Instagram posts. And so if you would like to follow us there or chat with us continuously throughout the summer, you can feel free to contact us using any of those that you see here on your screen. And so with that, I will pass it back over to Kayla for any questions and to hear from our Parent and Family Council.
Yay. Thank you so much, Jessie. That was awesome. I'm gonna pass it over to our Parent and Family Council members. If you guys want to give some tips about coming through orientation, what you wish you knew, things like that, that would be great.
Sure, I'll jump in here. I can just add, I mean, there was lots of information that Jessie shared that's spot on for the day. It is jam-packed. So, you know, one of probably my biggest advice is to wear comfortable shoes and dress in layers. I know that is kind of a practical approach, but certainly you're going in and out of buildings, and it is the summer in Virginia, which is humid, can be wet, so bring an umbrella, and you'll be doing a lot of walking around the campus. So I just want to make sure I share that. Something else I just want to share is just some things that I would recommend or be prepared for. You know, you are going to have those emotional moments. So that's probably how I best describe it. Certainly sitting there with your student. Every time I would kind of look over at him, I've had that mom moment, but certainly there were other things for me to distract myself throughout the day. There was lots of information. You are on information overload. Something else I would add is to take good notes, ask questions, get to know your Patriot leader. I think all those are going to help you in being able to walk away and feel like you've been well informed and you can actually like process and remember. And I also would suggest give yourself grace. It's a lot of information. Your kid is sitting next to you, ready to take off at George Mason, and just have some grace with what you can understand in the moment. Write down things, collect all the papers you can collect, take all the websites you can, and then go home and kind of go through things as things can be processed more easily. So I think that's most of it. I feel like, just as a parent, just being kind of emotionally prepared and knowing that it's a great place for your kids. And you will learn all the things that George Mason has to offer. And it's a great experience.
Thanks, Karen. So for me, I will say bring a coat. It is freezing in those rooms that they have these meetings in. But what I liked about orientation is that you can kind of make it your own. So if there's a topic they're talking about that you're not really think that applies to you, or you already know about it, I would go and just take a walk around campus for a little while. So there's nothing, you're not hemmed in to, oh, you have to be in this room at this time. There's a lot of people who kind of walked in and out, but there is a lot of information, and it's geared towards the parents because you're separated from your child. So they're hearing different information than you're hearing. So it's kind of nice. You can go back and compare notes. So now I already had a child that went through college, so I knew some of the basic college things, but I didn't know specifically to George Mason. So I thought it was very helpful to go through the orientation process. Plus, I was coming from Louisiana, and the weather up here is much better in Virginia than it is down there. So it was nice to get away.
Awesome. Thank you both. Before we jump directly into the Q&A, I just want to say that all of you are already embedded into Mason Family Connection, and there is an orientation hub in Mason Family Connection. So all of the information that you saw in this presentation, you will also receive this presentation. But you can find it in Mason Family Connection, and you can ask questions, and we're in there daily answering your questions and things like that. So if you have a specific question that we don't get to tonight, please post it in Mason Family Connection so we can get right to it. So, our first question. So if a student switched their orientation day, will the Patriot preview models be different?
They will not. All of our information in there is pretty generalized to all of the different sessions that our students are attending. And so, yes, so that should just switch over. They should still be able to keep monitor their progress and continue with where they left off in their Patriot preview modules.
Perfect. How many students will be at orientation roughly for each session?
Great question. Yes. So there will be, we set our limit to about 650 students per orientation session. I guess I didn't mention this. There are about 11 different sessions across the summer. We don't necessarily list these dates because they are first come, first serve, and sometimes dependent on your student's population type. And so depending on if you're a freshman student, an honor student, a transfer student, your students will see different dates. And so you can see these dates and what their availability is when you and your student log on to the registration form. And so it's a pretty packed day. Out of those 650 students, all of them are limited to about 2 guests, 2 adult guests and 2 child guests. And so you can imagine that that might make our day a little bit larger, including all of our guests.
Thank you. I can go ahead and answer this question. So the question is there an opportunity to discuss veteran services? And yes, veteran services will be at orientation to answer your questions, so you can have those questions answered there. How long will virtual advising be? And what kind of questions can they get answered there?
Yeah, so our virtual advising and registration session are either going to be in the morning, afternoon, and evening, again, dependent on your student population type. They're typically around, 3.5 hours long for the entire session. This includes time to hear from their academic colleges, get some information about what it's like to be a student in that academic college and other opportunities. Then they are able to go into kind of one-on-one or group advising appointments with their specific advisors. And so there is an opportunity to get to meet students, get to hear more, and then continue to see academic advisors one-on-one, share their screens, see what they're seeing for their registration process, and be able to actually register for their courses. And then what was the second part of the question was around how can they be prepared or ask questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Questions about AP exams and
Yes.
the classes and things like that. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think knowing what your students are interested in when it comes to their academic paths, is going to be really important. I did see the question in here about AP scores not being released until July. That's totally okay. There will be our advisors definitely will know that and will help guide students to classes that they can either anticipate or know about, or if there are classes that they can switch into once they receive those scores. And so there will be a time once your student attends advising and registration. After that, they do have the opportunity and the flexibility to continue to adjust and edit their courses with the information that they learned at virtual advising and registration. So that's not necessarily always locked in if there is an opportunity to change things in the future.
Cool. And how do students sign up for virtual advising and registration?
Yes, great question. So virtual advising registration and or on-campus orientation will be using the same form. When the student signs up for on-campus orientation, they also have to pick a virtual advising and registration date that comes after their on-campus orientation date. And so you cannot sign up for one without the other. If you're having any issues with choosing those dates or availability, please have your student contact our office and we are able to help provide some additional options or see what we can do to make sure that your student is able to attend.
Cool. Could you give them some more information about what small groups are going to look like? Is that with their major or what?
Yeah, absolutely. So our students will be grouped into small groups with one Patriot leader, and there will be between like 15 to 20 students who are with them. Your student will likely be in a small group with those who are in the same college, and also those who are the same student type. And so if your student is a freshman, will likely be with other freshmen. If your student is a transfer student, will likely be with other transfer students. There's not necessarily like specific content for them during their time with their Patriot leader, but this is just to make sure that they're making connections within their communities that they might see. And then they'll also have time to meet with their academic college with the other students that are in that academic college as a part of the presentations. And so they'll have opportunities to do that as well.
Cool. We have a question about the new student fee and versus the fee that guests pay for orientation. So could you break those two down a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So the new student fee for all of our incoming students will be charged to the first bill of the semester. That not only covers orientation, but also covers a number of different services and opportunities for our students throughout their entire new student experience at Mason. And so that will be charged later on. That is not something you have to pay prior to coming to orientation and will be something that is included in the first bill. The guest fee, however, will be paid as a part of the registration form. So once you submit a registration form and include guests in the guest portion, it should take you to a payment portal that allows you to pay for your guest on site or on the website. If you aren't able to do that, or if you have any errors processing the payment portal, you can complete your payment when you walk into orientation on the day of as well. And so our family team will be able to help you complete that payment on site.
Could one of the members from our family team talk about the hotel discount a little bit more and how you would go about paying for that?
Okay, so I came from out of state. I actually stayed at a different hotel. But I believe if you go on the website and you make your reservation through the George Mason website, it will automatically put that discount on there for you. And I think that's how it happened last year, though I didn't use it.
Yes, that's correct. So on our Where to Stay website page, we have discount codes linked directly in the booking links for some of our hotels. I know for one, you would need to call and mention that you are staying for orientation. That is outlined in the graphic on the website, but that is how you access the discounts.
Are students able to change their orientation date? And what if they cannot come to any of the June or July sessions?
Yeah, absolutely. So our students are able to change that orientation date. Our orientation registration form will lock 1 week prior to each of your sessions starting. And so, for example, let's say that you are your student is registered for the June 16th orientation session. 1 week prior to that session, your student's orientation form will lock, and so you won't necessarily be able to change information on that form. That being said, you're more than welcome to call our office, and our office assistants are able to override some of that for you and help you change that date. Maybe you find out 2 days before your orientation date that you're not able to come and you would like to change. You can just call our office directly and we'll be able to make that change for you. But otherwise, you can log into your registration form and be able to X out of the date that you have registered for and select a new date. Again, this is based on availability. So if you have, for example, registered for the June 16th date, you cancel that reservation or that registration, but then you realize you can come again, but that date is now closed because it has filled completely. Again, all you need to do is call our office and we can see what we can do to make sure that you can attend the date that you can come to. If you aren't available for any of the dates over the summer, we really do want to emphasize that it's really important that your students attend our summer dates as early as possible so that they can continue to get that information and make sure that they're on track. Especially for our freshman students, it will provide more information for them to register for classes, to open their time tickets, to be able to register for classes. And so we really do encourage that they come to our summer sessions. That being said, I understand that, our students are busy and accomplished and have things to do that they are doing over the summer. And so if that is a barrier for you all, again, you can just reach out to our office directly and we can see what we can do depending on your current situation to offer a different opportunity or to be able to provide you the information that your student might miss.
Thank you. All right. We have a question about if there's like major specific or college specific orientation days. Yeah, so can we
Yeah. So not necessarily. The only difference that might take place is the honors college. And so all of our academic colleges, based on majors, will be present at every single orientation session, at every single virtual advising and registration session. The honors college, however, will have one separate virtual advising and registration date to talk about a couple of differences and requirements for the honors college students. If your student's not able to attend that date, they can reach out to our office and we can put them in another date that allows them to still at least meet with an advisor. And then the Honors College will connect with them directly to make sure that they get the information that they might have missed. But as far as majors go, all majors will be present at every single orientation session. And so there's not necessarily anything specific. Now, that being said, each of our academic colleges or majors might provide additional opportunities to orientation that's provided within their academic college, and that'll vary between majors and different academic colleges. So that's why it's so important for our students to check their emails and make sure that they're keeping track of what their academic college is sending them.
Awesome, thank you. How could I request an accommodation for the orientation day?
Yes, so there will be a whole section on the registration form for you all as guests to request accommodations. We will do our best to make sure that you all are able to receive those accommodations. The only thing that we mention is that you please include as many of your contact information as possible, especially if you're requesting a mobility accommodation, because our mobility accommodations office and parking and transportation, who will help make sure that you're able to get around campus, we'll be reaching out to you all directly to make sure to coordinate some of those pieces. And so we do ask that you please make sure that you are including your contact information there when filling out the registration form. I do want to mention there will be a little bit of walking throughout the on-campus orientation day, walking from building to building to get to and from our different locations. There's not necessarily anything where you all will be walking for an extended period of time. But that being said, due to a couple of construction projects, as well as making sure that we are providing you all with some accessible routes without stairs, some routes from one building to another might be a little bit longer than you might typically take if you are to take a staircase or maybe cut through some buildings and allow to, and take some additional staircases.
Awesome. Thank you. Is it too late for guests, parents, or supporters to register and pay for orientation?
It is not too late. As long as your student can continue to submit their registration form, you can go back into that form directly and add in additional guests. And again, even on the morning of, if you decide that's the moment that you want to come and attend orientation, you can just walk right in, head into the walk-in line with Mackenzie and Kayla and Camille, and they'll be able to make sure that you can attend orientation that day.
All right. Do guests have to stay the entire time?
We advise that all of our participants stay for the entire duration of the orientation program. There's a number of different presentations that will likely answer questions that you already have at the end of the day, especially including housing, our campus essentials, again, like parking and transportation, dining, all of those pieces that typically a lot of our participants have questions about. That being said, if you do end up leaving early, following the orientation dates, we will send out a recap kind of what your student experienced and some of the presentations that were shared, but it won't capture everything. And so I really do want to encourage our students and families to stay at least up until the start of dinner, so that you are able to get all of the information that is presented at orientation. Again, that being said, we will not have any sort of a checkout process. And so if you do need to leave early, you can head out a little earlier than the end of the session.
Cool. All right. Let's see. Can I attend my students' sessions?
There are different sessions. So I'm going to talk about both the on-campus as well as the virtual advising. The on-campus sessions, we do ask that parents attend and parents and family members attend the parent and family member orientation. Again, this is just to make sure that your students are getting the opportunity to fully engage with their fellow students, with their Patriot leaders, and with the information that's provided to them. And so we do ask that our parents and our students separate during those middle sections of the day, so that you can fully get the parent and family experience as well as the students can get the full student experience. As far as virtual advising and registration, there's not a process for parents and family members to attend that portion of orientation. Again, all of that information will be sent directly to the student, and will be encouraged that the student go through on their own. Again, due to our student privacy laws, we do not allow additional people aside from the student themselves to be able to view academic information about the student. And so that is why the virtual advising and registration space is limited to students only. Now that's not to say that you can't talk to your student about what registration what classes and what courses they're interested in, how to prepare and get ready for that session. Maybe if you have a question around, how do you get to a certain major, or how can you change, majors, or maybe your student's interested in doing something different. All of that can be asked during a virtual advising and registration and can be prepared ahead of time, right? And so we do ask that our parents and family members stay involved with your student in that way, but also allow your student to go through that virtual advising and registration space on their own, so that they're able to fully engage with their academic advisors and make sure that there's no barriers to registering for courses.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Before I ask our last question, I just want to say that we're going to be doing a couple of more Family Sports series throughout the summer, including one about housing. So I know there's a lot of questions about housing, and we will be bringing the experts on housing later in the summer, so you can get all of your housing questions answered then. The last one is kind of a fun one. So what activities and things will be taking place right after move-in?
Oh, right after move-in. Great question. Oh, wow. There are so many wonderful events that will take place. One I want to mention during move-in, there will be a family farewell where you all will be able to engage with our office as you send your student off to start their first semester here at Mason. So will be an additional opportunity for you to connect. Your student, depending on what population they fall into, will have additional opportunities. There will be something called Club 4400, where it's kind of like a big party for all of our students coming in. There will be oh gosh, there's been silent discos, there's been like DJ parties and things. There's been blow up slides and all obstacle courses and things for them to just have a little bit of fun. There's convocation, which is kind of like the formal start to the semester where all of our students will gather in Eagle Bank Arena, hear from the president, hear from a number of different offices to be able to kind of get them welcomed into the Mason community and really get to know more about their start of the semester and, you know, the community that they're now a part of. Ooh, help me out, y'all. What other things are there? There's going to be opportunities for your students to engage with the Contemporary Students Services Office. If your student is a transfer student or maybe an off-campus student or maybe a non-traditional student who might be, maybe you're a student parent, whatever that might be, you may be able to connect with our Contemporary Student Services Office and hear more about resources there. So there are oh, there's field day. That's another one. Thank you, Casey. Field day is another opportunity for students to get out there, get out of their residence halls, meet new people, you know, take place in a little bit of friendly competition as the start of the semester is starting. And so lots of really, really great opportunities for your students to, you know, relieve some of their anxiety maybe about starting at George Mason and starting classes in the fall.
All right. That is going to be our webinar for the evening. Thank you all so much for all your thoughtful questions and things like that. This webinar will be recorded. So if you would like to revisit it or anything like that, please visit our website. It'll be up in about a week or two. And again, please continue to ask your questions in Mason Family Connection Orientation Hub. And if you have any questions, feel free to email us. That's families@gmu.edu or any of the contact information that you see on your screen. And yeah, thank you for being here tonight. Have a good night.